The marriage contract was about to expire when I found out I was pregnant. For 1 full year, Ethan Blackwood and I had guarded that line with almost professional precision. We were partners in an arranged marriage, not lovers with a future. In a few days, the contract would end, the Reed family would be saved, and we would go back to being strangers. The test-to-pest report trembled in my bag all the way home. Ethan was in the kitchen, carrying out steak like nothing in the world could disturb him. He hated servants in the house, so every meal after our wedding had been made by his own hands.
Wash your hands. Eat.
Dinner was quiet until he looked up.
Bad mood?
I shook my head. He kept guessing, each question colder and more careful than the last, until I finally mentioned the contract. That arranged marriage contract of ours is about to expire, right?
Yes.
I forced myself to continue, saying we should part cleanly and that I owed him too much already. Then I placed the report in front of him and waited for judgment. It is definitely your child. I did not plan this. I can deal with it, and we can still separate properly. After a silence so long I thought anger had killed him, Ethan stopped me.
Give birth to the child.
He said he needed a child to answer his parents. Then, in that flat, brutal voice, he added the condition.
Give birth to a son, and we are even.
What if it is a daughter?
Then we keep trying until you give me a son.
I should have been angry. Instead, the first thing I felt was a quiet, ridiculous ache. Ethan had reduced me and the baby to 1 sentence of calculation, and it still hurt. Our marriage had started as a business arrangement. Ethan needed a wife to satisfy the Blackwood elders. I needed his money and power to pull Reed Group back from collapse. We agreed to 1 year. Then he calmly said he did not intend to have a sex marriage, and I looked at his face, his height, his restrained, dangerous elegance, and decided the condition was acceptable. That was my first mistake. The second was falling for him. Ethan was nearly perfect as a husband, handsome, wealthy, generous, meticulous, silent to the point of infuriating. Even after the roughest nights, he would massage my sore waist with patient hands. I used to joke with myself that even a black card or a cold machine could become addictive if used long enough, but deep down I knew better. I was sinking, and he watched from the shore. I later learned why he had become this icy version of himself. Before studying Grad, Ethan had been open, sociable, brilliant. After returning, he was quiet enough to scare his parents into sending him to therapy. His friend Zach finally revealed the truth. Ethan had once loved a girl overseas, prepared a confession, and broken so badly that he sealed his heart, studied finance, practiced cooking, learned sewing, and even trained himself to ease muscle pain. I remembered asking around about that girl and realizing we had attended the same university. I had been too busy obsessing over fandom novels to notice anyone. So the woman he truly loved became a ghost I could never defeat. That night, I lay beside Ethan while the words about a son circled in my head. Maybe women were the only ones foolish enough to grow attached through intimacy. Maybe to Ethan I was simply a convenient partner and now a convenient womb. He came out of the shower half-dressed and noticed I was still awake.
Something else?
I said the hospital line had been long and my waist hurt. He paused, then crossed the room.
Why did you not go to Blackwood Medical?
I thought it was only stomach trouble.
Lie down.
His palm settled over my sore muscles. The gesture was familiar, but now it felt like a kindness borrowed from another woman, a habit trained by old love and passed on to me by accident. Then I remembered the messages that had crossed his phone while he showered. Zach had written that Vivian Lane was to the country and Ethan about whether his heart racing. Ethan read the messages, then tossed the phone away without replying. The next morning, he took me to Blackwood Medical for another checkup. Before lunch, the reports came back. In the car, I saw him frowning at the paper like he could read every medical line into prophecy. You aren't a doctor. Can you even understand that? He stiffened. Then his phone rang.
Today's flight? All right, I know.
He hung up and told the driver to go to the
Airport for Miss Lane.
My stomach tightened. Vivian was not a rumor anymore. She was here, and Ethan's month of late nights suddenly had a name. For the first time, I wanted to call Ethan and ask where he was. But what right did I have? I was the contract wife, the woman who would leave once the terms were fulfilled. So I stayed awake until dawn, slept badly, and went alone to my scheduled prenatal checkup. I had just taken a photo of the report for Chloe when Ethan appeared in the hospital corridor, breath uneven, as if he had run all the way there. I almost smiled. "Ethan, can you please be considerate of a lady?" The little joy in my chest froze.
Did we not agree you would call me and let me come with you?
"Hello, Miss Reed. I am Vivian Lane, Ethan's friend." I nodded and left, too tired to ask why they had arrived together. That evening, Ethan came home early. I was eating apple slices on the sofa when I gave him my answer. "Ethan, I agree to what you said. If the baby was a son, we would separate it after birth and never meet again. If it was a daughter," I said lightly, "we could simply have another child." His face changed, but he only answered after a long silence.
Fine.
I moved into the guest room that night. Half asleep and thirsty, I passed the attic and saw light under the door. Inside, Ethan knelt before a small chapel shrine, back straight, expression terrifyingly devout.
Merciful God, please give me a daughter. If you grant my wish, I will rebuild this chapel and restore every statue in gold.
I stood frozen at the attic door with one hand on my stomach. Had Ethan gotten the script wrong? We had clearly agreed on a son. Yet the man who had coldly demanded an heir was now begging heaven for a daughter. A dangerous thought cracked open inside me. Maybe Ethan Blackberg, that silent stone of a man, cared more than he admitted. He heard me and turned. Before fear could silence me, I blurted out the worst possible question. "Ethan, are you secretly in love with me?" The moment I said it, I wanted to disappear. Ethan looked at me with a strange expression. I was joking. He rose, dusted his knees, and walked close enough for me to smell cedar on his skin.
What do you think?
"I think it is not very likely." He only touched my head.
Go to sleep. Stop overthinking.
I ran back to the guest room and messaged Chloe, confessing that Ethan might like me. Her reply came late and merciless. "You only noticed now?" She said the whole company knew Ethan treated me differently, cooking breakfast, letting me max out his cards, abandoning meetings to rush to the hospital. When I asked about Vivian, Chloe told me to ask Zach. So I did. Zach laughed through a voice message, then finally corrected the misunderstanding. Vivian was not the girl Ethan had loved abroad. She was a childhood friend whose family had tried to match them, and Ethan had refused for years. When I asked who the real girl was, Zach fell silent and told me to ask Ethan himself. "Ethan told me to ask you, who is she?" The white moonlight had no face yet, but for the first time I wondered if it might mine. The next morning, hunger dragged me out of bed. Ethan was in the kitchen, frying eggs with a steadiness that made domestic life look like surgery.
Awake?
I nodded. Breakfast was already waiting. Toast, eggs, milk, fruit, all made in small portions because pregnancy had ruined my appetite. The silence between us was awkward, until I finally asked about the attic. "Do you really want a daughter?" He asked why I was asking, and I told him I had seen him praying. He tried to call it an accident. "But you clearly said you wanted a son."
I said it casually.
"So, which is it?" When I pushed him to choose, he looked at me with an intensity that made my fingers slip on the fork.
Either is fine, as long as you give birth to it.
The sentence hit me harder than any confession. In the car to the hospital, I caught him searching pregnancy precautions and saving baby products like a man preparing for battle. He held my hand through the maternity ward while nurses whispered that Mr. Blackwood had become sweet. After the checkup, I finally asked the question that mattered. "Ethan, back when you studied abroad, who did you like?" He said it was a very stupid girl who lived entirely in her own world and never noticed him.
Apparently I haven't changed much since college.
He had pursued her in sophomore year, then given up because he thought she liked an older student. The older student had been a fan fiction writer I followed for updates. That girl was not me, was it? Ethan said nothing. His face answered everything. I stood in the hospital hallway, stunned so deeply that the world seemed to tilt. Ethan had liked me in college. He had tried to approach me while I was too busy chasing fandom updates to notice a living, breathing man in front of me. You pursued me?
Yes.
When?
Sophomore year.
I tried to explain that the older student was not a romantic rival, only a writer I pestered for chapters. Ethan said he knew now, but by then he had already chosen silence. My eyes stung. He had married me not because any wife would do, but because he heard Reed Group was failing and wanted to help. I am sorry.
You do not need to apologize. I was too cowardly.
Something inside me finally gave way. Ethan, I like you too.
What did you say?
I said I like you too. I have liked you since we got married. He pulled me into his arms so tightly I could feel his breath shake.
You do not know how long I have waited to hear that.
When he asked us not to divorce after the baby was born, I refused just long enough to frighten him. Then I told him why. I wanted a real proposal this time. On the way home, he explained Vivian had only been a business partner and childhood friend.
Next time you have doubts, ask me directly.
For the first time, I said yes without guarding my heart. Happiness arrived so suddenly. Ethan made dinner, brought me fruit.
Because I wanted a daughter like you.
The words were so simple, they melted every wall I had built. Chloe asked about a gala. Ethan said no, then compromised. At the gala, I stood beside him, joking I was his girlfriend.
It should be wife.
I will drink to you both. I wish you happiness.
She cannot drink.
I do not want Ethan to be placed in a difficult position. I answered that my husband and I did not need her concern. What if one day you stopped loving me?
I waited for you for so many years. I will not let go.
That night, he kissed me gently.
I love you.
The next morning, the internet exploded. A headline claimed Ethan cheated during marriage. The photo showed him and Vivian on a balcony, taken from a convincing angle. Only one problem, Ethan had never been on that balcony. I had.
Did you see it?
Yes. I asked if the photo was edited. He said yes. I said I believed him. His silence on the line was warmer than any defense. Came to apologize, insisting she had not arranged the photo. After she left, Zach arrived with worse news. Her assistant took the photo. The coincidence sat badly with me. I told Zach not to burden Ethan with my suspicion.
I do not care what you meant. Stay away from Ava from now on.
By afternoon, surveillance footage was released. The rumor reversed instantly.
Yocher. I will manage you for a lifetime.
At 3 months, my pregnancy could no longer be hidden. Ethan said it was time to tell his parents. I agreed, nervous enough that he held my hand the entire drive to the Blackwood family home. Mrs. Blackwood was trimming roses when we arrived. She hurried over as if I were already made of glass. Mr. Blackwood asked why Ethan suddenly had time to come home, and Ethan gave the announcement without decoration.
Mom, you are going to be a grandmother.
The room went silent for 3 seconds. Then joy tore through the house. Mrs. Blackwood nearly cried while grabbing my hands. Mr. Blackwood slapped Ethan's shoulder hard enough to make even him shift.
Good boy. I thought you planned never to have children. It was an accident. Accidents are good. Accidents or surprises?
The dining table became a battlefield of nutrition. Mrs. Blackwood loaded my bowl with fish, shrimp, soup, and instructions. Ethan tried to stop her.
Mom, she cannot eat that much.
What do you know? She is eating too. Later, in the garden, his mother asked whether our marriage had become love or remained negation. I answered with the truth. Mom, I love him.
他说了什么?
On the drive home, Ethan asked what she had said. When I told him my answer, the faint curve of his mouth gave him away.
I love you too.
Ethan finally drove me to the hospital himself. Vivian lay pale in a private room, smiling weakly when we entered.
No.
She asked to speak to me alone. Ethan refused.
Anything you want to say can be said in front of me.
Vivian gave a bitter little smile and said he's still protecting me. Now she apologized. She admitted it had been wrong to chase him and to provoke me. When she said the doctors had diagnosed cancer and that she might have only half a year without treatment, my anger lost its shape. I have decided to let go. She said she had spent years believing persistence would make Ethan turn around, only to understand that he had never had her in his heart. I did not know how to comfort a rival who had finally become just a sick woman. Outside the hospital, Ethan asked if I wanted to help her.
Sound hesitating.
He said I was too kind, so kind it made his heart ache, but if I chose to help, he would stand with me. The next morning, he had already arranged the hospital, the specialist, and the treatment fees. His message told me to visit if I wanted, look after myself, and come home early. Vivian cried when I told her. She asked why I would help after everything she had done. I said the past could end there. I finally understand why Ethan likes you. Chloe called on my way home in a panic because Zach had confessed to her. Her crisis made me laugh for the first time all day. While other people stumbled towards love, I realized Ethan had quietly built mine into shelter. By 4 months, Ethan had become frighteningly efficient. He hired a private nutritionist, supervised my meals, and treated every step I took as a controlled risk. Chloe visited, saw my rounder stomach, and screamed as if I had swallowed a ball. Ethan appeared with shopping bags while Zach followed him, pretending the entire visit was official business. Chloe blushed when she admitted she had Zach. He had supposedly begged out the company for 3 days until she could no longer. Ethan, with his usual devastating brifty, identified him as her boyfriend. Chloe turned red enough to silence the whole living room. In the kitchen, Ethan told me Zach had loved her for 5 years while claiming he would never marry. I asked whether Ethan had ever talked about me like that.
Yes.
What did you say?
That you were very stupid and could not even see that I liked you.
I had no argument. I really had been that stupid. Later, Mrs. Blackwood invited us to dinner, and on the way we stopped at a baby store. I picked up one tiny rabbit after another. Ethan's answer never changed.
Buy it.
Can you say something else? He considered it seriously.
Then do not buy it?
Keep saying bye. Mrs. Blackwood had made soup, demanded I eat carefully. She asked again if Ethan treated me well. I told her he did. That night, I understood something simple. Love was not only confession. Sometimes it was a warm cup, a packed bag, a hand steady at my back. At a later checkup, Chloe waited at the hospital entrance and teased Ethan for coming personally. Wow, the great Ethan dining to show up in person? He ignored her and walked me inside. The ultrasound room was dim and cool. When the doctor moved the probe over my stomach, a small outline appeared on the screen. My eyes filled before I could stop them. Ethan's hand tightened around mine. The doctor said the baby was developing well, then asked whether we wanted to know the sex. Ethan answered first.
Yes.
The doctor adjusted the angle and smiled. It was a girl. Ethan's hand shook.
Are you sure?
The doctor was sure. Outside, Chloe laughed so loudly people turned to stare. Ethan, your son's dream is shattered? Ethan's face stayed blank, but his ears betrayed him.
I wanted a daughter in the first place.
I exposed his attic prayer. Chloe nearly exploded. Ethan simply pulled me away. In the car, happiness radiated from him despite his expressionless face. Happy?
Yes.
You really wanted a daughter?
I wanted a daughter like you.
At home, he opened baby room designs and asked me to choose. I pointed to a soft cream and pink layout. He immediately called Zach.
Find a renovation team. Turn the guest room into a nursery within 3 days.
Zach protested, Ethan, but Ethan did not negotiate. Then he started ordering clothes, shoes, toys, and blankets, mostly pink. When I suggested the doctor could be wrong, he refused to entertain the possibility. That night, we named her Grace Blackwood. Peace, safety, and a life loved from the beginning. Once Grace had a name, the whole family lost its mind in different directions. Mrs. Blackwood called about the checkup. Oh, thank God! That's wonderful news! Mr. Blackwood could be heard celebrating in the background. Ethan looked satisfied, like heaven had finally approved his petition. He started reading a book about raising girls before the baby even had a crib.
He said girls needed their father's company, respect, and to be told they deserved love.
I'm here, always.
I listened, heart softening until I could barely breathe.
I will be a good father.
I know. When we chose the name Grace, Ethan accepted it with a seriousness that made the unborn baby feel already protected. The next day, Zach arrived with renovation workers and the expression of a man sentenced to forced labor. Ethan stood at the door of the future nursery, correcting colors, lighting, furniture placement, and every detail. Mrs. Blackwood arrived with mountains of baby clothes. Chloe arrived with a pink rabbit.
Man, you're turning into a total daughter slave, you know that?
Zach muttered that Ethan was turning into a daughter slave. I only smiled because he was right. That night, the nursery was finished. Pale walls, white crib, soft lamps, everything gentle. I stood inside with Ethan behind me, thinking of the cold dinner table where this pregnancy had first been discussed like a transaction. Now the child had a name, a room, and a father who had prayed for her. In bed, I asked what would happen if Grace had a bad temper, or is a bad temper, or if she's mischievous, or refused to listen. Ethan answered each question without hesitation. He would coax her, play with her, and love her anyway.
But she cannot be better at acting spoiled than you.
Why?
Because you are the one I spoil most.
By 6 months, my belly looked like I was hiding a watermelon. Ethan banned me from nearly every household action. If I bent down for a remote control, he appeared from the kitchen with a spatula in hand and the face of a man witnessing disaster.
Ava, you moved again.
It is only a remote.
What if you fall?
I'm not made of porcelain, you know.
I said I was not made of porcelain. He answered that in his eyes, I was.
Oh my God, he's taking me to meet his parents!
Chloe called in a panic because Zach was taking her to meet his parents. She asked, what should I wear? What should I say? What to say? What gift should I bring? I told her Zach's parents must be easy to talk to because Zach himself was easy to talk to. Ethan later confirmed he knew them through business and that they were decent people.
I know them through business. They're decent people. I have an important company gala next week.
Then he mentioned an important company gala and said he wanted to bring me. I glanced down at my huge stomach and asked if he was serious. Are you serious?
I will take care of you.
At the gala, people stared, congratulated us, and watched Ethan hold my hand as if letting go would cause an earthquake. A partner congratulated him on the daughter. Ethan only nodded. Then Grace kicked. I placed Ethan's hand on my stomach. A few seconds later, she kicked again. His expression froze, then softened in a way only I could read. People joked that he was already becoming a father. He ignored them, eyes fixed on my belly. Then he decided we should go home because I was tired.
Let's go hard.
I was not tired, but I did not object. On the way back, I asked what he would do if Grace did not like him.
Then I will chase after her until she does.
That night, after the gala, Zach called Ethan.
Hey man, got a second?
Vivian wanted to see me again. She said she had something to return. Ethan did not like the idea, but I agreed to go, as long as he came with me. Vivian looked much better than before. She took out a small box and handed it to me. Inside lay a necklace so familiar that my fingers trembled. It was mine. I had lost it during sophomore year. I'm so sorry that I had left it in the library, and Ethan had searched everywhere before finding it at Lost and Found. Too afraid to approach me directly, he had asked Vivian to pass it on. I had never received it. Because as I did not give it to you. She admitted that she had liked Ethan then and did not want us to have contact. For years, she had kept the necklace to remind herself of what she had done wrong. Ethan tried to stop her, but she only wanted to return it. I looked at the necklace and felt an old life fold into the present. Ethan had loved me quietly enough to search a library for my lost thing, and cowardly enough to hand his courage to someone else. After we left, I asked why he had not simply given it to me himself.
I was afraid you would reject me.
So you just did not give it?
Yes.
He apologized for wasting so much time. I kissed him and told him to make it up now.
A lifetime will not be enough.
Later, Vivian called once more to apologize and say, I'll make sure we leave the country after I'm discharged. Ava, you have to cherish him. He's not me to other Ethan, because once he chose someone, he never changed. Vivian left the country before Grace was born. Zach mentioned it during dinner one evening, while Chloe sat beside him, glowing over a cheesy post he had made about loving her. My chopsticks paused. Ethan did not speak. Some chapters closed without applause. Chloe quickly changed the subject to Grace's 1-month celebration. She was already planning guest lists, venue designs, and menus like a professional event manager. Why are you more nervous than I am? I am the godmother. How can I not be nervous? After they left, Ethan cleaned up while I watched television. A sudden sharp pain tore through my stomach. He rushed from the kitchen instantly.
What is wrong?
My stomach hurts. The hospital said it was false castrations and told me to rest.
I'm not leaving.
Ethan did not care that it was false. He declared he would not leave me even an inch. I reminded him he had a company. He said he would push everything aside. For the next days, he worked by video call, handled documents from home, and appeared whenever I shifted position too quickly. Useless. That's what I am right now. I joked that I felt useless.
You are nurturing a life. How are you useless?
A week before the due date, Mrs. Blackwood moved in to help, thrilled that her granddaughter was almost here. Ethan became even more vigilant. If I got up at night to use the bathroom, he followed. I am just going to the bathroom.
What if you fall?
On the due date, nothing happened. Ethan looked betrayed by biology itself. 2 days later, during breakfast, I felt a warm rush. Ethan, I think my water broke. Ethan's face changed faster than I had ever seen.
Mom, get the hospital bag!
He lifted me at once and shouted for his mother to get the hospital bag. Mrs. Blackwood ran through the house in a controlled panic while I clung to Ethan and tried to breathe. At the hospital, the doctor said I was only 2 centimeters dilated and needed observation. Ethan refused to let go of my hand. A nurse told him he had to wait outside. He answered with the same tone he used to close billion-dollar deals.
I need to be in there. That's non-negotiable. I will stay with her.
The nurse hesitated, looked at us both, and compromised. In the waiting room, pain came in waves, each stronger than the last. I gripped the sheet until my fingers cramped. Ethan held my hand, face pale with helplessness.
Do not be afraid. I am here.
It hurts.
I know. Hold on.
When it was time to enter delivery, the nurse finally stopped him. He looked at me as if someone were dragging him away instead of wheeling me in. Wait for me.
Okay.
Inside, pain swallowed time. Doctors told me to push. I pushed until every part of me disappeared into effort. Then a cry split the room. It was a girl. When I was rolled out, Ethan was pacing the corridor.
Mr. Carter, mother and daughter are doing just fine.
The doctor smiled and told him mother and daughter were safe. He stared at the baby in the nurse's arms, reached out, then pulled his hand back like she might break. The nurse encouraged him to hold her. He did, awkward and trembling.
Grace.
His tears fell before he could hide them.
Thank you.
I should be thanking you. I smiled weakly. The hospital room filled quickly after Grace arrived. Mrs. Blackwood rushed in first, crying over her precious granddaughter. Chloe and Zach came carrying gifts large enough to stock a nursery. Chloe leaned over the baby and declared herself the godmother.
I'm the godmother.
Grace opened her eyes and seemed to smile.
She smiled at me!
Zach ruined the moment with medical accuracy, saying it was only gas. Chloe nearly attacked him in front of the newborn. I lay against the pillows, exhausted and strangely complete. Ethan sat beside me, holding my hand.
You okay? You must be excited.
I said seeing Grace made everything worth it. He kissed my forehead. 1 month we celebrated her first moon, and in the quiet of the night, I knew we were home.
I love you.
I love you too. The 1 month celebration came faster than I expected. The Blackwood home was covered in pink balloons and flowers. Guests praised his eyes, nose, and tiny hands. Ethan introduced us with a pride so quiet it was almost reverent. After the banquet, we returned home with a sleeping baby. Ethan carried Grace as if carrying a piece of the moon. He wondered aloud what kind of person she would become.
What kind of person do you think she'll be?
She'll be good, because she has you. I said she would be good, because she had him. He corrected me in his own way.
She will be good because she has you as her mother.
The window let moonlight into the room, washing over the three of us. I thought of the contract, the fear, the misunderstanding, the attic prayer, the lost necklace, the hospital door. Every painful thing had brought us here. Ethan, Grace, and me. For the first time in my life, I did not want anything more. Life after Grace was quieter and noisier at the same time. Quieter because Vivian was gone, the rumors were dead, and the contract no longer hung over us like a blade. Noisier because Grace ruled the house with cries, hiccups, tiny fists, and a schedule that destroyed every adult routine. Ethan adapted with frightening seriousness. The man who once used silence as armor now read baby care books with colored sticky notes and tracked feeding times like a corporate report. If Grace frowned, he studied the reason. If she cried, he looked as if the Blackwood Empire had failed. Mrs. Blackwood visited constantly and fought for holding rights. Chloe arrived with more toys than one infant could possibly understand, insisting that a godmother had duties. Zach pretended to complain and then spent 10 minutes trying to make Grace grab his finger. I watched them and sometimes remembered the cold first night after the pregnancy report. I had thought Ethan wanted an heir and nothing more. I had thought my heart was foolish. But now, when he rose before dawn to warm milk, when he placed water by my bed, when he looked at our daughter with shy awe, I knew love could be slow and awkward and still absolute. One evening, Grace finally settled after a long cry. Ethan held her against his chest, moving so carefully that I smiled.
What are you smiling at?
At you.
I am still learning.
I did not answer with a new line. I only leaned against him and thought, so are we all. The proposal I had demanded did not arrive immediately. Ethan was not a man who did romance casually. His love appeared first as clean bottles, folded blankets, warmed meals, and 1,000 small protections. I nearly forgot that I had once told him not to continue the marriage without asking me properly. Then one afternoon, Chloe came over and dragged me out under the excuse of needing advice on a dress. Zach appeared suspiciously cheerful. Mrs. Blackwood insisted Grace would stay with her for the day. By the time I noticed everyone knew more than I did, Chloe had already pushed me into a cream-colored dress and fixed my hair. She said nothing that counted as dialogue worth repeating. She only smiled like a criminal. Ethan took me back to the university, where we had once crossed paths without becoming a story. The library steps were the same. The courtyard trees were older. I stood there holding the necklace Vivian had returned, suddenly aware of all the years hidden behind us. He showed me the bench where he had once waited for a chance to speak to me. The path where he had followed at a respectful distance. The reading room where he had found my lost necklace. I remembered none of it, and that hurt. But he did not blame me. He knelt before me there, not before a chapel this time, but before the woman he had loved when she was too blind to see him. He did not need to invent a new speech. The answer had already been written in everything he had done. I gave him my hand. The ring fit perfectly. The contract had ended long ago. The marriage began there. Our second wedding was small. No clauses, no deadlines, no rule-keeping affection outside the paperwork. Just family, close friends, Grace asleep in Mrs. Blackwood's arms, and Ethan waiting at the end of a short aisle, with red eyes he pretended were not red. Chloe cried harder than I did. Zach gave her tissues and earned a glare. I have waited for this day since I first realized my son's frozen face changed whenever she entered a room. Mr. Blackwood looked proud enough to forgive Ethan for almost making everyone wait years. I walked toward Ethan, remembering the first marriage, a contract, a rescue plan for Reed Group, a partner too silent to read. I had thought I was a convenient wife. He had thought he was too late, too unwanted, too cowardly to confess. We had lived beside each other, both starving for the same love. This time, when he took my hand, there was no condition about sons, daughters, or separation. Grace woke during the ceremony and made a small sound. The whole room laughed. Ethan glanced at her, then at me, and for a moment his face held everything he rarely said aloud. At the reception, Chloe joked that Grace had stolen the ceremony spotlight.
She had inherited my timing.
Zach said she had inherited my timing. Ethan held Grace with one arm and me with the other, like he finally believed we were not leaving.
Do you regret it?
Later, when the guest had gone, I asked him whether he regretted losing all those years. He looked at Grace sleeping between us, then touched my wedding ring. His answer came not as a new promise, but as a certainty already lived. We would spend the rest of our lives paying time back. Reed Group stabilized fully within a year. Ethan insisted that the rescue had never been charity because the company still had value. I knew that was only partly true. He had saved it because he loved me before I knew how to love him back. Still, I learned to accept help without turning it into humiliation. I also began working again in design, slowly at first, between feeding schedules and sleepless nights. Ethan arranged nothing unless I asked, which was perhaps the most difficult kindness for him. He respected that motherhood did not erase me. Mrs. Blackwood watched Grace when I had meetings. Chloe became my loudest supporter, even when she understood only half my sketches. Vivian sent a letter from overseas after her follow-up treatment. It was brief, formal, and free of the old thorns. She said she was recovering, studying again, and learning how to live without chasing someone who never belonged to her. I placed the letter away with the return necklace. Some apologies did not demand friendship. Some only closed a door. Zach and Chloe became more ridiculous by the month. He proposed in a way so public that Chloe called it embarrassing while crying into his shoulder. I told her not knowing how to answer was already an answer. She accused me of becoming wise after pregnancy. At home, Ethan grew softer in ways no outsider would believe. He let Grace pull his tie. He learned to braid hair on a doll because he wanted practice. When I teased him, he asked what was wrong with preparation. Nothing was wrong. That was the miracle. After so many misunderstandings, our happiness was ordinary enough to feel unreal. Grace's first birthday arrived with more ceremony than any one-year-old needed. Mrs. Blackwood ordered decorations. Chloe handled photos. Zach handled nothing correctly but claimed emotional contribution. Ethan approved every detail with the severity of a board meeting. The cake was soft pink, with tiny sugar stars. Grace smashed one hand into it before anyone could stop her. Ethan froze. I laughed so hard I nearly cried.
Would that irritate your skin?
He asked whether sugar on her sleeve would irritate her skin. Mrs. Blackwood told him to stop being dramatic. Watching him panic over frosting, I remembered the man who had once said he did not like children. I remembered his cold face at dinner, his demand for a son, my heartbreak. The impossible sight of him kneeling in an attic chapel. Back then, I had thought I was discovering contradiction. Now I knew I had been discovering fear. Ethan had been afraid to want too much, afraid that I would leave, afraid that if he confessed, I would reject him as I had unknowingly done years before. So he hid love under logic, tenderness under silence, desire under contracts. It almost cost us everything. That night, after Grace fell asleep, Ethan and I cleaned cake from the floor. He looked at the tiny ruined dress and said,
We should save it.
Why?
I asked why.
It was her first birthday.
I told him he was becoming sentimental. He did not deny it. Later, he placed warm water by my bed as always. I wore the necklace he had once failed to return. The ring on my hand caught the light. I had entered this marriage to save my family. Somehow, I had been saved too. As Grace grew, she became exactly what Ethan had prayed for and exactly what he feared, a little girl with my stubbornness and his silent determination. She learned to point before she learned to speak. One point from her chubby hand and Ethan moved faster than any employee had ever seen him move. I warned him he was spoiling her. He looked at Grace, then at me, and seemed unable to regret it. I understood. Love had made him helpless in the best way. The company changed too. People who once whispered about our contract marriage now treated us like an old love story. I heard versions of our past retold in absurd ways. Ethan had crossed oceans for me. I had ignored him because I was proud. Vivian had been a tragic interlude. Grace had healed everything. Reality was messier. We were not perfect lovers separated by fate. We were two frightened people who had understood each other, until a child forced the truth into the room. One afternoon, I visited Blackwood Group with Grace. The employees nearly melted. Ethan came out of a meeting at the wrong time and found his daughter sitting at his desk, smacking one palm against his keyboard. The room went silent, expecting him to mind. He only removed the laptop and gave her a safer notebook. Zach later said the entire company had witnessed the fall of a tyrant. Chloe said it was deserved.
Are you happy?
That evening, Ethan asked if I was happy. I knew the answer was not simple because happiness had grown from fear, jealousy, illness, apology, and waiting. But it was real. So I told him with my hand in his.
Yes.
Ava Reed, the girl who once believed she was only a contract wife, slowly became someone else. I stopped measuring myself against Vivian, against Ethan's imagined past, against the woman I thought he had loved more. I began to trust the evidence of my own life, the way he looked for me first in every room, the way his hand found mine in public, the way he still woke when I shifted at night. Ethan changed too, though he would never announce it. He spoke more, not much, but enough that people noticed. Mrs. Blackwood said her son had finally become human again.
You deserved an award for thawing up Glacier.
Ethan ignored him, which was close to agreement as Zach would ever receive. Sometimes, in quiet hours, I thought of college. If I had lifted my eyes from those ridiculous stories, would I have seen him waiting? Would we have loved sooner? Or would we have ruined it by being too young, too proud, too unsure? There was no way to know. The necklace stayed in my jewelry box till Ethan asked why I did not wear it more often.
Why don't you wear it more often?
I said it reminded me of lost time. He said nothing, only fastened it around my neck himself. His fingers brushed my skin. The old years no longer felt stolen. They felt folded beneath the present, part of the road that led here. Grace toddled into the room, reached for the pendant. Ethan caught her hand gently. No new words were needed. In his eyes I saw the same vow he had spoken through action since the beginning. He would protect what he loved, even if he had learned too late how to say it. Chloe and Zach married before Grace turned 2. Their wedding was loud, chaotic, and absolutely them. Zach cried before the vows. Chloe threatened to leave if he ruined her makeup by making her cry too, with less silence than we had used. I sat beside Ethan, Grace asleep against his chest, and watched our friends stumble into the future.
I finally understood why you had forgiven so much confusion with Ethan.
In that moment, I thought of all the letters we'd written, all of the words unsaid, but looking at him now, I knew it was all worth it. I corrected her in my heart. I had not forgiven confusion. I had forgiven fear, after the truth proved his love had always been there. There was a difference. At the banquet, Zach thanked Ethan for teaching him persistence. Ethan said nothing, but his expression suggests that if persistence meant begging publicly, Zach was on his own. I laughed until Grace stirred. Vivian sent congratulations through a mutual contact. She was healthy enough to work again and had stayed abroad. I wished her peace. The bitterness that once tightened my chest at her name had faded. She had been part of the misunderstanding, but not the root of it. The root had been Ethan's silence and my insecurity. That night, after we returned home, Ethan carried a sleepy Grace upstairs. I followed with my heels in one hand, thinking of how different the word home felt now. It was no longer the place where a contract waited to expire. It was a place full of cups of warm water, tiny shoes, unfinished toys, and a man who said love aloud.
Are you tired?
I asked him whether he was tired. He looked at Grace, then at me, and shook his head. Of course he would. Ethan Blackwood never admitted exhaustion when the people he loved were in his arms. Grace eventually learned to say daddy before mommy. I pretended to be offended. Ethan pretended not to look smug and failed completely. For 3 days, he answered every tiny sound she made, convinced it might be another version of the word. I accused him of bribery because he gave her more attention than anyone in the house. He calmly said, babies recognized sincere devotion. I told him he was shameless. He kissed my forehead and went back to reading Grace a picture book she was eating instead of listening to. Our lives became a collection of small, ordinary scenes. Ethan cooking while Grace banged spoons. Me working at the dining table while he walked meetings in a hushed voice so she could nap. Mrs. Blackwood appearing with soup. Mr. Blackwood teaching Grace to clap. Chloe bringing dresses. Zach bringing noisy toys. Ethan immediately tried to hide. One evening, I found Ethan in the nursery, staring at Grace as she slept. The room he had ordered finished in 3 days was now lived in. Blankets, books, soft dolls, a nightlight shaped like a moon. He looked almost afraid to breathe. I knew that look. It was the same expression he had worn outside the delivery room, the same reverence from the attic chapel. Back then, he had begged heaven for a daughter. Now heaven slept in a crib, one fist open on the sheet. He noticed me and held out his hand. I walked to him. Together, we stood over our child, quiet and overwhelmed. I realized the original bargain had been wrong in every way. A son would not have freed us. A daughter had not trapped us. Love had done both, freed us from fear, and bound us where we belonged. Years later, people still like to ask how Ethan and I had fallen in love. Depending on the audience, I gave different answers. To polite strangers, I said we had married first and learned each other slowly. To friends, I admitted I had been blind, jealous, pregnant, dramatic, and lucky. To Ethan, I sometimes said he should have confessed in college, and he would look at me as if I were the one who had ignored him on purpose. He kept the old contract locked away. I found it once while organizing documents. The pages looked absurd now, full of tidy clause for a marriage that had refused to stay tidy. 1 year. Separate finances. Mutual benefit. No interference after expiration. No line mentioned midnight prayers, hospital corridors, lost necklaces, or a daughter named Grace. I wanted to throw it away. Ethan stopped me. Not because he valued the contract, but because he wanted proof of what we had survived. He said the paper showed where we began.
The paper showed where we began.
I said it showed how stupid we were. He did not disagree. Grace grew old enough to ask why Daddy cooked better than Mommy.
Daddy.
Ethan answered before I could defend myself, saying everyone had different talents.
Everyone has different talents, sweetie.
The story that began with a contract ended in a room washed with moonlight. Ethan stood by the window with Grace in his arms, and she slept against his shoulder like she owned him completely. She did. So did I. I thought of the woman I had been when I first held the pregnancy report. Terrified, convinced I was unwanted, ready to leave before I could be abandoned. I thought of Ethan at the dinner table, saying he needed a child for his parents. I thought of the cruel condition about a son, the ache in my chest, the jealous over Vivian, the attic door opening on a secret prayer. If I'd not woken thirsty that night, perhaps I would have misunderstood him for much longer. Perhaps pride would have carried me out of the marriage, and he would have let me go because fear had always made him silent. Instead, a daughter not yet born pulled the truth out of us both. Grace stirred. Ethan lowered his voice as if the whole world existed to protect her sleep. I walked over and touched her tiny hand. She closed her fingers over mine. Ethan looked at us, with the softness that had once hidden beneath ice. No contract remained between us. No deadline. No condition. Only the life we had built out of mistakes, late courage, and love that had waited years to be named. I leaned against him and felt his arm settle around me. Ethan, Grace, and me. This was the answer to every fear I once had. This was the home I never knew I was walking toward. And for the first time, forever did not sound like a promise too large to trust. It sounded like us.